So this divine consciousness, or this divine aspect of Christ, was coming to the front, even at the age of 12. Up to that time, there is no doubt Jesus acted like any other boy and lived as any other human being. But at the age of 12, then the power of God within him, manifesting through the Christ consciousness, began to assert itself. And we also read in the 2nd chapter of Luke, a little further along, that they found him with the learned men in the temple, and in the 47th verse, and all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. Then he said, I must be about my Father's business. Suddenly he realized that God was in him, manifesting in him, and he had to be about his Father's work, speaking through the Christ consciousness, not as the man Jesus. And so, this time of the forging to the front of the divine consciousness in the different Christs which have lived, and there have been many, this varies. Jesus, about 12 years of age. In the Master, in speaking with him, he told me that as a little boy, he felt the divine urge within him, and he wanted to sit by the banks of the Ganges and just dream about God. But as he said, God had some other ideas. And so he had to carry on and establish this work of self-realization in the short time in which he took to do so, with great personal sacrifice of body and mind, that you and I and all souls would have the opportunity to become that Christ consciousness which is inherent in each and every one of us. And so the time of the coming to the front of the divine aspect in the different souls that have manifested Christ consciousness varies. Larry DeMarcia, you'll recall in reading in the autobiography, received the great illumination, came to the front, the Christ consciousness came to the front when he was about 33. And if you look up in the history of the other saints, you'll find that the time varies, but usually fairly early in life. And so much for the human aspect of Jesus. He was human. He was a natural human being. Otherwise, why would God put someone here which the rest of us could not emulate and follow the example and be as he was? Each one of us is a potential Christ, without question of a doubt. Each one of us can, as Jesus did, manifest that great Christ consciousness and do some good in the world. That's the only lasting thing. Worldly consciousness, with all the things that go with it, money, possessions, and so forth. At the end of life, where is it? Where is it? There's nothing there. But if you just try a little and follow the example of Jesus and the other great Christs, seek first the kingdom of heaven, then when the end of life is reached, everything is there, because you are one with that which produced everything, the consciousness of God in your own body as the Christ consciousness. Each one of us, remember, is a potential Christ. Now going on a little bit further to the divine aspect of Jesus. The divine aspect of Jesus, his manifestation of the Christ consciousness. Now, I think we fully understand that Jesus did not speak his words, as I say unto you, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not. He did not speak that from the ordinary consciousness of his body, not from the human consciousness which was in Jesus. No, he spoke that from the realization of the Christ consciousness within. For he said, I say not of myself, but the Father says who is in me. And so that's the divine aspect which Jesus manifested, and that, of course, is the predominant aspect of Jesus the Christ. Not from his body. His body was just like your body and my body, except He spiritualized it. He lifted his worldly consciousness, his human consciousness, and superseded it with the presence of God within as the Christ consciousness. That's the divine aspect of Jesus, and of course, that's the aspect in which we are vitally interested, because that aspect lasts. The worldly consciousness passed away. We know what happened to Jesus and his bodily vehicle, but that Christ consciousness which Jesus manifested did not pass away. That Christ consciousness, remember, did not come with the advent of the birth of Jesus the Christ. Realize that. The Christ consciousness did not come with the birth of Jesus. That Christ consciousness always was and always will be. That came into time from before time. That Christ consciousness is in you, is in me. We are all potential Christ. Let us not forget that. We have proof of this in the Bible, in one reference which I'd like to give you at this time, Proverbs, the 8th verse, the 22nd chapter. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way before his works of old. Each one of us has the Christ consciousness within us. Before creation. Before creation was, our consciousness was with God. We had that. We also read about this in Ezekiel, where it says, thou didst have the consciousness of the holy mountain. That's the 1,000-rayed lotus. And walked up and down amidst the stones of fire. Those are the centers of the spine, the chakras of the spine. We had that. We had the Christ consciousness. Then something happened. Then in came delusion. Sin, iniquity it is called. It's nothing but delusion, attachment to outward consciousness, and we've forgotten that. We've lost that which we had. And remember that Christ consciousness did not come with the birth of Jesus, but always was. That's God the Father. Not